In the early hours of June 29, 1978, Bob Crane, a famous television star, was beaten to death while he slept in his room at the Winfield Place Apartments in Scottsdale, Arizona. There were no signs of struggle or forced entry. Police found an electrical cord wrapped around his neck, and there was a bottle of scotch in his room, a drink he was known not to indulge in. Based on these clues, the police believed he was murdered by someone he knew. After eliminating several suspects, the police narrowed it down to one, John Henry Carpenter, a close friend of Crane's who reportedly had a conflict with him shortly before the murder. In 1994, Carpenter was tried for the crime but was acquitted. So if it wasn't Carpenter, who committed the crime? Was it someone who regretted taking part in one of Crane's films? Or was it the husband of one of Crane's many lovers? The case of Bob Crane's murder remains as one of Hollywood's biggest unsolved mysteries. Today we'll be examining the events of Bob Crane's life that led to his death, as well as the suspects and the theories, to find out what most likely happened on that fateful night. Bob Crane was an all-American star of the hit comedy show Hogan's Heroes that ran from 1965 to 1971. His character, Colonel Hogan, the leader of a group of captives in a German POW camp during World War II, was one that was cherished by millions, which turned him into a household name. Before becoming a famous TV star, Crane was already a popular radio DJ in Los Angeles. He had interviewed many famous people, including Marilyn Monroe, Frank Sinatra, and Bob Hope. He was good-looking and had a natural charisma, so it wasn't surprising that Crane became a lady magnet. It was reported that he was never without a woman willing to sleep with him. Some were even happy to engage in group sex with him and his friends. His fame as a radio show host garnered him roles as side characters in well-known sitcoms, until he got offered the role of Captain Hogan. The show was a cultural phenomenon, a blend of wartime drama and comedy that resonated with audiences. His performance showcased his ability and gained him a devoted fan base. Having been catapulted to fame, it wasn't surprising that he experienced challenges in his personal relationships. Crane was married to his high school sweetheart, Ann Terzian, with whom he had 3 children before he even achieved professional success. But that didn't stop him from indulging in affairs. His newfound celebrity allowed him to meet numerous women who were charmed by his good looks and wit, and his affairs included some of his castmates. He had an affair with his co-star Cynthia Lynn, who played a buxom secretary in the sitcom's first season. He also had one with Lynn's replacement on the show, Patricia Olson, who went by the stage name Sigrid Valdis. Eventually, he divorced Terzian and married Valdis in 1970. The couple had 2 children together. Despite having a new family, Crane didn't stop meeting with other women. Allegedly, he collected nude photos and films of his sexual partners with their consent and showed them off frequently to his fellow cast and crew members. According to Crane's son Robert, his father's dressing room was porn central. There, Crane stored Polaroids, negatives, and X-rated films of his sexual escapades. It is believed that this is one of the reasons why Crane's career tanked after Hogan's Heroes. His proclivities led Crane to develop a friendship with John Henry Carpenter, a regional Sony sales manager who helped Crane acquire the photo and video equipment to help him record his sex life. And when Crane was done with the affair, the women purportedly landed on Carpenter's lap. Unfortunately, like many other sitcoms, Hogan's Heroes went off the air in 1971. From there, Crane's professional career steadily declined. By 1978, he was relegated to performing in a dinner theater circuit, starring in a self-produced play called Beginner's Luck. On June 27th, Crane called his eldest son, Robert, while he was in Phoenix. He informed Robert that he was divorcing Patty. In an interview, Robert recalled Crane's last words to him. He says, "I am making changes." Crane also mentioned that he was planning on cutting out the bad influences in his life, which included his friend John Carpenter. Unfortunately, this never happened. According to Robert, Carpenter followed Crane to Arizona, enraged that he was being rejected. On the night of June 28th, eyewitnesses claimed to have seen Carpenter and Crane arguing at a club in Scottsdale. Hours later, Crane was dead. On June 29th, Crane was supposed to have a lunch meeting with his co-star Victoria Ann Berry. They were in Scottsdale, Arizona, for a show at the Windmill Theater. Unfortunately, he never showed up. Worried about Crane, she went to his apartment, Unit 132A of the Winfield Apartments. Upon discovering Crane's dead body, she immediately called the police. When police entered the first-floor apartment, they found the body of 49-year-old Bob Crane, shirtless, sprawled on the bed, with his head bludgeoned and the cord of the VCR player tied around his neck. The pillow was drenched in blood. There was blood spatter on the wall and ceiling. Whoever murdered Bob Crane did so with a lot of anger and/or hate. Because the police were unable to confirm the identity of the body, with the victim's face nearly unrecognizable, they asked the theater's manager, Ed Beck, to identify if it was really Crane. There was no way I could identify him from one side. The other side, yes. While inspecting the scene, the police found that there were no signs of forced entry. However, there were traces of blood on the back of the exit door, the front door, and the doorknob. There was also a red stain on the curtain. His wallet was still inside the bedroom, with money still inside. The autopsy revealed that Bob Crane had been asleep when the left side of his head was hit. Further investigation determined that the killer struck him using a camera tripod. 2 separate parts hit him, which inflicted 2 separate and deadly wounds. The cord was tied around his neck after his death. Based on the medical examiner's report, the killer is most likely male. The amount of strength required to lay open Crane's scalp with the initial blow is quite high. Moreover, the blood splatter on the ceiling suggests that it was swung in a short arc, which means the killer didn't need to swing the heavy weapon too much to get momentum. During the investigation, it was discovered that Crane was obsessed with sex. Police found cameras, video equipment, numerous videos of Crane having sex with different women, and even a makeshift photo lab inside the apartment. And his collection of photos and films could be a motive for murder. While Robert claims that all his father's partners consented to getting photographed and/or recorded on video, many ex-lovers did report later on that they had no idea Crane was photographing or filming them during the act. The killer could have been an angry boyfriend or husband. However, there was a lack of forced entry. So the police believed that the killer was someone that Bob Crane knew. Because of the argument the night before, the police zeroed in on John Carpenter. They discovered blood inside Carpenter's rental car as well as on the passenger door. When tested, the blood was type B, which is the same as Bob Crane's. According to Scottsdale detective Barry Vassell, who investigated the case, nobody else who handled that car had the same blood type as Crane. It was type B blood, all of it. As for motive, Robert had claimed that Crane was cutting off ties with Carpenter. Without Crane, Carpenter might feel that he was losing his partner in crime. He might also feel that he would no longer have access to all the women that Crane engaged with. Unfortunately, without the murder weapon, circumstantial evidence and a possible motive weren't enough for the county attorney to charge Carpenter with murder. It wasn't until 12 years later that a new lead was discovered. Scottsdale detective Jim Raines found a previously unseen photo of the crime scene that showed a speck of brain tissue inside Carpenter's Chrysler Cordoba. Though the actual sample was gone, a judge ruled the image as admissible. DNA testing was also now available. Unfortunately, the tests proved inconclusive, so Carpenter was arrested and charged in 1992. The defense team used Crane's sexual behavior to suggest that John Carpenter wasn't the only one with a motive. An angry lover, boyfriend, or husband could have been the one to attack Crane. Moreover, they presented witnesses that testified seeing the two men enjoying a friendly dinner that night. With still no murder weapon in sight and an inconclusive DNA test result, the jury found John Carpenter not guilty. So if it wasn't John Carpenter, who killed Bob Crane? Or did Carpenter get away with it? Aside from Carpenter, there was another person who had a motive to kill Crane: Patricia Olson. According to Robert, she had the most to gain from his father's death. "She was in the middle of a divorce with my dad," he said. "If there's no divorce, she keeps what she gets, and if there's no husband, she gets the whole thing." According to Carpenter, Olson had an argument with Crane over the phone the night before he died. This was verified by the couple living in the neighboring apartment. In addition, Olson was jealous over his sexual escapades, despite being estranged from Crane. There were even stories about her fits of rage. One account is of her throwing a VCR at Crane during an argument. Not only that, it was reported that Olson had dug up Crane's body and moved it to another cemetery without the family's knowledge. Moreover, she set up a memorial website for Crane where she sold his amateur tapes and nude photographs. However, she was never considered as a suspect by the police. Olson had a solid alibi at the time. She was in Washington State at the time of the murder. More importantly, the killer was determined to be a male. Of course, it's quite possible that Olson hired a hitman. However, the police never found any evidence that could connect her to the murder. Bob had a messy personal life and an insatiable sexual appetite, two things that could have led to his demise. It wouldn't be surprising if there were people, aside from his ex-wives and John Carpenter, who wanted him dead. According to Carpenter, Crane used to carry with him a black bag that contained compromising photographs, which allegedly include prominent people. Berry reportedly saw it when she first entered the room and discovered the body. However, the police only found a few pieces of paper and some old tickets inside the bag. They assumed that the killer might have taken something from the bag, though it was never publicly revealed what they think it was. Based on this, some people believe that a husband or boyfriend of one of the women he slept with may have been responsible. However, it seems unlikely for Crane to open the door to a stranger in the early hours of the morning and even offer them a drink. There was a bottle of scotch on the table. According to Berry, Crane never drank the stuff. Some believe that Crane was murdered because of his involvement in the underground sex scene, his homemade videos, as well as amateur pornographic films he created with the help of John Carpenter. However, this is pure speculation. Again, Crane wouldn't readily open his door to a stranger who suddenly popped up outside his apartment. So, who do we think killed Bob Crane? DNA test results aside, there is little evidence to suggest the murderer could be anyone else but John Carpenter. Everything points to him. Carpenter was the last person to see him alive. According to a witness, they argued the night before. Robert also recalls his father telling him that Crane was planning on cutting ties with him. Carpenter's access to women and celebrities were all through Crane. Without Crane, he wouldn't be able to enjoy the same hobbies anymore. We believe that because of this, Carpenter went back with Crane to his apartment, drank a little with him to reminisce old times maybe, and then when Crane fell asleep, he took the tripod and hit Crane on the head. Then, in a fit of spitefulness, he decided to get the VCR cord and tie it around his neck. On his way out, he may have grabbed some photos from Crane's collection to keep for himself. Then he headed out, took a flight back to LA, and waited for the body to be discovered. Carpenter called Crane's apartment several times after the murder while the police were there investigating the crime scene. Despite being told that they were there to investigate an incident, he never asked what the incident was. Why wasn't he curious or concerned about what had happened to his best friend? You won't ask if you already know. You also won't ask if you're guilty and afraid of getting caught. Instead, you avoid the topic. We believe that, in a bid to get more information, Carpenter just kept calling the apartment, hoping someone would tell him the police's discoveries. It all fits. Except in 2016, new DNA tests were conducted on the remaining blood samples found in Carpenter's car. Though it was the same blood type as Crane's, the DNA did not match. So whose DNA is it? According to John Hook, an anchor in Fox 10 Phoenix and author of Who Killed Bob Crane, the tests actually picked up 2 DNA profiles. A major contributor is from a man, his identity is unknown. Second DNA profile is a partial profile, too degraded to reach any conclusions. While this does not definitively clear John Carpenter as a suspect, it does show us that the blood in his car is not related to the murder. Then again, we can't really rely on the evidence collected by the police. It was reported that the crime scene was contaminated by the presence of unrelated people. Berry was allowed to use the phone inside the apartment repeatedly. Robert Crane's son was allowed to walk around the apartment, and the Maricopa County medical examiner was allowed to climb over the body and shave the head to examine the wounds. According to Robert, we added our fingerprints, footprints, and hair samples to an already contaminated, lackadaisically investigated, casually considered murder scene. While investigators denied that improper procedure was followed, it also can't be denied that Robert and other civilians were allowed to tromp all over the crime scene. So, did John Carpenter get away with murder? Most likely. But that's just our opinion based on the evidence at hand. With Carpenter's death 4 years after his acquittal, we may never know if he really killed Bob Crane.